And we're already live. Hey,
Ooh.
hey.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
We're
Live with
live.
Mama Chat. Woo-hoo. We gotta do our little dance.
So good morning, mamas. I'm OG Mamacita.
I'm MJ.
And today we have with us Madame Jeanne-Marie Paynel.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
And people call you Jenny?
In the Montessori school that I worked in, I was Miss Jenny. Yes, I think it was just easier for the children than to call me Jeanne-Marie.
Oh.
Yes.
So yes. So yes, I answer to both Jenny and Jeanne-Marie.
We've had a little technical difficulties that have us a little late here, 10:09, but whatever, we're worth it.
Technology, it's a love-hate relationship. So sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. And today our punches are, other than a almost 4-year-old having a tough morning, technology has decided not to cooperate.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're still going to have an awesome time this morning and talk to Jeanne-Marie about Montessori. I was reading actually your website, getting in depth because I've come across it before, but about kind of how you got into Montessori. And so you were in advertising that was your career.
Yes, that was my 20-some year career out of college, working first in San Francisco, then in Paris, and met my husband in an advertising firm. And it wasn't until I moved back to the States and 6 years in advertising here that I just realized that was not really my calling, and that I really I had always been very attracted to working with children and just feel like I have a very, I think it's just, I'm still a child. It's like this inner child that really connects with children and parents. So I decided to go back to school and did my Montessori certification and a master's in Montessori education.
So you have two children.
I do.
And then, so I know that your bio kind of said that you had read up on Montessori, and so you used that with your children, though, as you were bringing them up, right?
Yes. They were not, neither of them were formally in Montessori schools, but my home is definitely Montessori, and I think that's why I'm so attracted to it, is just because it's a very intuitive and natural approach to just understanding human development. And I know it helped me just reading that one book, and I was not one of these avid readers, reading 500 books while pregnant. I just read one. I was working full-time, all of this. So, but that one just kind of gave me this very kind of affirmation that if I just let my children show me the way, that everything was going to be okay. And that's exactly how I approach parenting, and that is just, I'm a firm believer that children are just way, way more intelligent than we give them credit for, and they're capable of so much more if we would only just get out of the way sometimes. So it just really, and then when I did my Montessori training, I mean, it was like, ahas over ahas over ahas, just because it was like, that's everything that she, had developed and kind of observed herself in children all over the world, that if we set up the environment and just give them the room to explore, they can show us wonderful things.
Wow.
So you mentioned she. So just for the parents that have no idea or that are just starting to research these different philosophies because either their children are becoming of age for preschool or that sort of thing. What the fuck is Montessori? And why do I need to know what it is?
So Montessori, I will not repeat those words. But Montessori, actually, Dr. Maria Montessori was a woman, actually the first woman allowed to go to medical school in Italy more than 150 years ago. She had to actually get the Pope's permission to be able to study medicine.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So we've come a long way. So she is a feminist in my heart, a genius before her time. This is a very personal thing, but I'm firm believer that had she been a man, our educational system would be very different today.
Yeah.
And she really through her medical training started working actually with children in psychiatric wards. So these were children that were supposedly good for nothing, kind of on the fringes of society, and don't waste your time with them kind of thing.
It was either the attic or an institution for these
Well,
kids.
they were actually, these children were in an institution.
Yeah.
And that's where she started working, and really kind of developed all of these manipulative and kind of educational, toys and things that just opened up their brain, and they were capable of so much. And these children were actually later on capable of passing some of the state tests for children at the time. And so from that, she really realized, and she worked with other, doctors of the time that had also developed kind of, manipulatives for language delay and so forth. And from that...
But I'm sorry, but when you say manipulatives, you mean things that actually they use their hands for, correct?
Exactly. And when I get into Montessori, you'll see that a lot of it is just about experience. It's about, manipulating and doing things. So from that, she really realized that if these children that were deemed useless were able and capable of so much, what were, the so-called normal children going to be able to show us? Right. And so from there, she really, really developed this whole educational methodology that first actually started in the slums of Rome in a housing project for working families. And the deal was that these children were basically left on their own because both parents were going off to work, and the project manager was annoyed that these children were, left free to do whatever. And so she gathered all of these children, had a room for them, set up this environment for them, because I don't want to call it a classroom because it was really very different. It was, for the first time, they had child-sized furniture. Mm-hmm. They had things lowered at their level. She noticed that they weren't all that interested in toys, per se, but they really wanted to do the things that they had seen adults do at home. Mm-hmm. So she really, the whole curriculum started with really giving them a sense of dignity and showing them how to care for themselves, how to care for their environment. And children, showed the world what they were capable of. And that's when Montessori kind of became, on the international level, leaders from all over the world came to see what this great doctor was doing with these children. And from there, got a lot of notoriety, came to the U.S. actually at that time. There was a World Exposition in San Francisco where there was a Montessori classroom, and so forth. So it's been developing, for over 120 years. It's different in a lot of ways from traditional education. But, yeah.
Well, that's where I was going. So if a parent is going to tour a school and they walk into a Montessori school, the things that they would expect to see are just like you said, furniture that are child size. And what kinds of things won't they see that they would see in like a mainstream school? How different would that classroom look?
Okay, so for one, the child-size furniture, now we see that everywhere, thanks to Dr. Montessori. So thank you. I mean, she's influenced, you know, schools in lots of different ways. But one thing that is important to know when you are looking for a Montessori school, the Montessori method itself was never copyrighted.
Mm.
So it is not really protected per se. So there are, you need to do your homework, and there are certain things that you will see. Some of the big differences with traditional school, for one, it's, and also I want to say that Montessori is an education that starts at conception through 18 years of age. So it's really from, you know, prenatal life through until university studies. So they're you know, Montessori today in the U.S., here in California, is more associated with preschools, but it is really an all-encompassing way of seeing human development.
I read that in your on your website how you did first like the preschool age, like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, and then you went back and kind of did the education for birth to 3. Okay.
Right. Because as you'll see, Montessori is very much one of the focus is preparing the environment that our children live in, and so prenatal life is their first environment. So making sure that that is well prepared and well cared for, and that the mother is, you know, well cared for, eating well, happy, all of this. I mean, we know today that those are all things that influence the health of our children. And then the birth environment is so critical and so important. And then the home environment. And that's why I really like that whole birth to 3 you know, study is really helping parents understand what their role is going to be and really prepare the home for the children. And that's a lot of my work is centered around that. But to go back to the more traditional Montessori preschool, and today there are here, at least here in California and all over the world, there are Montessori schools that welcome children as early as 3 months.
Wow.
And those are called the nidos, which means the nest. And those were really established for families who, you know, couldn't do otherwise than both parents are working. So this is really a very homey environment that has been created to really replicate the warmth of the home and all of that for the children. And then there is what we call either the infant community or the young children's community, which is usually the walking age children until about 2.5, 3. And then what we have the most of is our preschool, which is 2.5 to 6-year-olds. So it encompasses preschool and kindergarten. And so that is a really big difference with traditional schools, is that there are mixed ages.
Yeah.
The children actually stay in the same environment with the same adult for 3 years.
Wow.
So you really have a whole, you know, picture of that whole developmental window, as opposed to you know, categorizing them because of their birthdays, which really makes no sense. So it's really about, a lot of it is about observing the children and seeing when they're ready to move on and when they have mastered certain skills. And you know, she noticed, for example, for the 3 to 6-year-old, they're very much of individual learners. You know, our you know, young children really like to do things on their own. They don't mind working with somebody next to them, but they're kind of parallel play. They're working. They're focused. They have their attention on their own thing. But around 5.5, 6, they become a lot more social, and they want to do things together. And so when you move to the lower elementary classroom, which are the 6 to 9-year-olds, the classroom looks a little different because there's a lot more group activity. So all of these things are really about following the child, and Montessori is quoted saying follow the child is really how we're going to learn to guide them. And so the classroom is very much like that. So that's one big difference, is that mixed age group.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's all about individual work. So because the adult who has these 25 children ranging from the ages of 2.5 to 6, she can't really do a lesson plan for the entire class. So she's doing 25 different lesson plans, and really has 25 different individuals to care for. And it might seem daunting, and at first it was, I'll be honest, but it is so beautiful to see children working on things that are of interest to them, that they are choosing what lights them up. So there's really no real issues. When I had a classroom, I had 25 children. I had an assistant with me, so we were 2 adults. And basically, you're working one-on-one with a child when you see a child maybe wandering a little bit bored, or the activity isn't challenging, and you're going to go over and say, hey, let me show you something new. I've noticed that you really like this activity. Here, let me show you how to master this. And you kind of give them simple tools to keep on going in their curiosity. And
so I'm sorry, but I'm just really curious as to, like, if you were to have 2 children side by side, one that was educated in Montessori versus, or compared to a child that was in mainstream public school. So let's say they're 5 years old. What kind of immediate differences would you note between the 2 children? Just as far as socializing or conducting themselves on a daily basis.
So I think the Montessori child would very independently know what to do in any new situation. They've been given the tools to adapt to any different situation. The 5-year-old is computing, knowing most of all the mathematical operations, is probably starting to read, has definitely been writing in cursive, because we start cursive, and knows all of its geography, music, just has been given all of these different concepts that they're interested in. The maybe more mainstream child is going to wait to be told what to do, because they have been conditioned to sit in a circle in the morning, let the adult tell them what to do, and the adult is choosing the activities for them, and so forth, as opposed to, my morning ritual in the classroom was just beautiful. I sat on a stool by the front door, and I shook everybody's hand and said, oh, good morning, Erin. How are you? I love the dress you're wearing today. Or good morning, MJ. What are you going to work on today? And off they went and chose their work. So I was never in a position to say, this morning, MJ, I think you need to learn about the number 4. It's like, if you came in and you had seen a butterfly on your way to school and you wanted to know about butterflies, well, that's what I'm going to help you figure out. So it's really about guiding, children's curiosity and really nurturing that to the maximum. So yeah.
I want to interrupt for just 1 second because we do have viewers. So
hello.
And thank you for watching us live. And then I want to point out too that on if you're watching this on Google, definitely, and I think YouTube, you have to go to Google in order to see this. But we've got all of Jeanne-Marie's Voila Montessori links here on our Showcase app, so you'll see You'll be able to go right to, from the link there to, she's got a workshop coming up October 21st, and we'll talk more about that. And also a hangout coming up next Thursday, October the 15th. And then you can sign up for her newsletter. So all those links are there on the Showcase app. And whoever is watching us live there, you can ask a question or leave a comment if you would like to. And I will try to have my phone here to let me know so that I can read it.
Yay!
So, yeah. So
also, all that information is on the Facebook event page, and the I put it in the Google Plus page also, and I'll make sure to put them on the YouTube in the comments as well.
I did that.
Oh, there you were, Mom.
You know, when we're talking about the classroom, Jeanne-Marie, so I have a lot of friends who have kids with special needs, autism, you know, have been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. Is Montessori set up for them to let them flourish? You know, I would assume so. Is there kind of something that needs to be done with these kids before or during, or what do you think about that?
No, because, and I actually had children of special needs in my classroom, and the fact that the environment is really set up for children. I mean, that classroom, I had a stool, that was it. You know, there was no, you know, Miss Jenny presiding over everybody and everything. Yes. I was down at their level, and so that I could, and so the environment is really set up for independent work and to really follow the child at whatever, you know, developmental capacity they're at. So it's really adapted for children of all different types of needs, whether they're, you know, super bright and just, you know, so curious and whatever, to those who are, you know, taking their time and need more physical activity. I remember, actually, I have an example. I had a little boy who was just bright as could be, but very, very active, and just, and Mom, you know, would question me, does he have a attention deficit disorder? I was like, no, this is just a, you know, boy who's active, it's fine. And I remember very well just following my heart and seeing that he really needed, like, big, heavy work. And so one day there was this pile of logs in our outdoor area, and I said, oh, would you mind those logs, could you move them over to the other side? And he, one by one, he moved them, and very concentrated, and did this work back and forth. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe we should put them back. Da, 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 da. Once he had used up all of that physical energy that he needed, he walked into the classroom and chose some work that was appeasing to his curiosity at the time. So it's really about learning to observe and really figuring out what those individual needs are.
Right.
So what I'm getting from this, and I have 2 points. One, maybe this is something that parents whose children are having difficulty flourishing in mainstream school because of the behavioral kind of like requirements, maybe Montessori is something that would work better for them. So I think that's something that we should definitely point out to those parents that are suffering, you know, if their child is found to be too active or too rambunctious.
And like earlier you asked, you know, what would be some differences that you would see. One of the important aspects of a Montessori classroom is the freedom of movement.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Children are in perpetual motion.
That's huge.
How can we request and expect them to sit still?
And that's huge. That's huge.
That is pure torture to ask a little 3-year-old to sit still at a table for any amount of time. So in the classroom, we actually use movement in our lessons. You know, when I'm doing a math presentation, I'm going to ask you to walk across the entire room to go get me that number 4 and bring it back. And so that, because, you know, movement is life. I mean, it's you know, so that to me is a really, like, there's no assigned desk.
Right.
You can choose to work at a table, you can choose to work on the floor on a mat, or you can choose to work outside in sunny San Diego, or, you know, whatever. So
I know
that is a really important part.
for a lot of parents who, you know, for example, I know somebody just off the top of my head who, second day of school, her son was already deemed problematic because he couldn't sit still. So I think that knowing that in Montessori they have that freedom of movement is huge.
Yes.
So that have issues with their children can consider this option. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, I always play devil's advocate. So for the parent who is wondering how their child will switch from Montessori to mainstream should the need occur, they move X, Y, Z, and now there are no longer any Montessori schools available to them. Will that child seamlessly go into a non-Montessori program, do you think?
Yes. The only thing that might occur is that the child who is going from a, you know, quality Montessori school into a more traditional school might be a bit bored, just because their intellect has been challenged quite a bit more than you see in traditional schools. I had one example of a little girl that I had for 3 years who was with me and transferred to, you know, a prestigious private school, actually as a first grader, because she had stayed with me the kindergarten year. And her mother was picking up a younger sister, and she handed me the phone, and this little girl said, "Oh, Miss Jenny, you know what? They don't know what division is here." Because, you know, I had followed this child who just was fascinated with math and concepts, and we had done divisions of large numbers and of fractions and all this, and here she found herself in a, you know, prestigious traditional school that was holding her back because, oh, you're not ready for that. No, that's not for you.
Yeah.
When it's like, why not?
Yeah.
So, you know, and I remember her just like, "Miss Jenny, they don't know what division is," you know, and she really believed that they didn't know what division was. So.
Well, and as an adult too, like being an adult, you're always like kind of, everyone wants you to, what your passion, what are you passionate about, you know? And so as I came into motherhood, you know, I just had this desire to want to focus on whatever my child's passion was from the beginning, like you're saying, from birth, you know? I mean, as adults, you know, if you do what you love, you won't work a day in your life. Well, then why don't we set our kids up for us to support their passions and what they love? Because maybe, you know, who knows what they're going to be, but if we follow them, like you're saying, follow the child, they're going to show us what they love, you know? Jay there's a few things that he's been loving this month, and I know he's into Spanish, and it's so cool. He's been asking me questions left and right, so I'm just kind of like keeping a journal of them, and we're basically figuring out those things because that's what he loves, you know?
Exactly.
Right now, yeah, Montessori to me is like, just makes sense.
So, well, then this brings up another question for me then. You know, I studied arts, the fine arts, in college, and I married an artist, and, you know, we never had any kind of aspirations for a corporate or a suit and tie kind of life. And we did have to deal with people saying, well, you're not getting prepared for the real world, because the real world is all about cubicles, the real world is all about fitting in. Mm-hmm. And so what do you say to parents who have that dilemma or who have that argument from their family or from within their own unit as far as choosing Montessori for their children? How do you deal with that?
What I answer to that is that what our children will be doing for their living has yet to be invented, doesn't even yet exist.
Yeah.
This is a rapidly changing world, and we need to give our children the tools to adapt to this ever-changing world. One of the founders of actually Google has been interviewed, and he actually thanks his Montessori preschool education for having him helped him think outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what we need to do today for our children, is really give them the tools of, oh yes, that would be a great idea, let's think about that, and really kind of go forward. Because honestly, today, I don't know. I mean, I have a 15-year-old boy. I have no clue what, I mean, I can't even think of the possibilities that he will have, because we are in a time and place where we're, other than manual labor, all the other things we're kind of inventing as we go, as the needs arise. So I think it's more important to really give our children the tools to be good learners, to be able to really explore what their curiosity drives them towards, and give them those tools to be able to adapt.
It honestly, just learning from you, we've had you at the Lindsay Project, the Lindsay School, the philanthropic work that we do, and I swear I learn so much every time that I hear you talk. And even though my son is 4, and hopefully we'll have another one in the future, but and I would love to do it from the beginning, but I did sort of do Montessori without knowing that I was doing Montessori. Yeah, and it is such a stress release to not. I think it's just a way less stressful parenting to do it that way, where you are just following the child instead of making them do what you think they need to do. Just let them tell you, and then of course kids, they're always watching and they're always wanting to do what other kids are doing, especially older kids and adults are wanting to do. So Montessori just sets it up to have them do it in a safe way too.
Right. And that's actually the beauty. That's the beauty of that mixed age group, is that they have those older children in the environment with them, and so they're really curious about, what is the 5-year-old doing? When they're just entering, and the beauty of it is also the older children really caring for the younger ones coming in. Are really it's more of it's a beautiful social experiment when they're all together.
Yeah, definitely.
So for parents that would like to learn more about Montessori, hold on just a minute. I live in downtown.
There's a bus going by.
There's a big old truck. So for parents that want to learn more about Montessori, or expecting parents, they can of course go to your site, which is Voila Montessori, and we have those links available. What do you think would be, if you other than the points that you have made so far, what do you think new parents looking into this should really take away from Montessori?
Wow.
Yeah, no pressure.
It'll be less stress.
that exactly. That it's really a trusting, a real trusting of believing that the life force that is within our children is very powerful, and that they are all born, and so are we. We're all born with this intrinsic need to learn and to adapt to our time, place, and culture. And that if we are there observing as they're trying to, when they're on the blanket and trying to grab that toy, and we just let them do it for themselves and empower them by letting them do it for themselves, we will see, wonderful blossoming in front of our eyes. So it's really letting go kind of wanting to control everything, and kind of that perfection, and really trusting in that whole evolution that has been going on for millions and millions of years, and we're all still here and doing just fine. So, you know, it's kind of trusting that process.
I think that a lot of this, from what I've been able to interpret from the experience that I've had with you at the Lindsay Project and the other things that we've done together, is that you really have to acknowledge that your child is a person completely unto themselves and not necessarily a reflection of you, in the sense that you cannot lead your life through your child. So yes. I think that it's a very difficult concept for a lot of people to embrace, and basically the point I'm trying to make is that if you don't want a strong-willed child, or if you don't want a child that speaks their mind, then don't consider Montessori, because Montessori kind of teaches the child that they're a person.
Well, I'll be harsher than that.
Okay.
If you don't want a strong-willed child and a child that thinks for themselves, then don't be a parent.
Oh, there you go.
Amen.
I'm sorry, but you know, it's like,
Amen.
you know, if we're going to take on that role, if we're going to take on that role as a parent, we need to accept the fact that each child is going to be their own person, and we need to help them through that transition. The first 3 years, we are helping them construct themselves, and we are the foundation. We are the nurturing foundation. We give them the basic trust in the world, and you know, make them feel welcome and accepted and all this. But you know, when they start pushing us away and telling us no and let me do it and all that, we've got to give them the tools so that they can do it and really empower them, because they are our next generation of leaders. So you know, people, if you can't handle it, you know, do something else.
Right.
You know, I mean,
I think you're right. You know, it is hard for, you know, I think our generation, and you know, I say maybe my parents before, and now just realizing as a mom myself, it is hard because we didn't grow up that way. Most of us, I mean, maybe some of us did, where, you know, we were just kind of let to do things on our own. I think our parents, and in a loving way too, thought that they needed to teach us, and they needed to help us. But of course, as a mom now, I more try to guide him, but I let him let me know when he needs that. And in that, I mean, it's just so cool to see your child do something on his own. And a lot of the times I'm saying to him, can you figure it out? These days, that's the one phrase that I say a lot. Can you figure it out? And then when they come back to you and say, I did it, I mean, it's so friggin' cool. Like, I mean, that is one of the best phrases that I hear these days. I did it. And I'm like, I knew you could, you know? So that, and that is a lot of release of that control, because we want them to do something, but it's like that fight, you know, do we help them? Do we not help them? And man, not helping them is like the best gift.
But I you know, I often remind the parents that I work with that we are their guides, we are not their servants. Mm-hmm. And that is, you know, and I think that sometimes our society makes it look like we need to do everything for them, you know. But I really empower young children to start preparing their snack and get things in the kitchen and be involved in all this, because that's what they want to be doing. They're following you in the kitchen. They want to be there, so involve them.
I apply the pirate laws to my parenting, which are everything is a guideline, and you know, there are no steadfast rules, and you have to figure out, I have to make sure you know how to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
I got to keep you alive and teach you how to take care of yourself because I'm not always going to be there.
But really, too, they're just the best teachers. Honestly, like some people say, like, you know, that we're their teachers, but I honestly feel like he's been the best teacher because he's taught me more about myself in the last 4 years than I've learned about myself in the last 39 years.
Right.
And you know, just about who I want to be myself through. Because he's watching me, like how am I going to model things?
No, it's so true. Yeah, very true.
So in case you guys missed it, if you go to our YouTube channel page, you'll see some of the Lindsay projects, and you'll see some snippets of events where Jeanne-Marie went and talked to the girls of the Lindsay tribe. And we try to do those pretty consistently. However, technology, again, it's just a difficult lever.
Hit or miss.
Yes, hit or miss. So there may just be snippets of some of her talks, but definitely check them out in our Lindsay Project playlist. And hopefully Jeanne-Marie will join either MJ or I for an After Dark series episode where we can talk about something a little bit more in-depthly because our morning coffee chat has just like gone away. Please, MJ, take over.
Okay. Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome to do a Montessori. Maybe we could. Gosh, there's so much. Like when we had you at the Lindsay Project, and we've had to break it up because there's so much to talk about with each concept in the kitchen, in the bathroom. You know, setting up if you're going to start from birth. You know, setting up their room if you have a room for your child. So yeah, that would be lovely to talk about. But definitely, you know, the upcoming stuff that Jeanne-Marie has. You know, like I said, we have the links on the Hangout here.
And you do those great little short videos. Sorry to interrupt, but you do those darling little videos that I love. And so definitely make sure and check out her videos because she's got a ton of them and they're great. Yeah,
and that should be through the newsletter, right, Jeanne-Marie?
You receive them on the newsletter or my YouTube channel, Voila Montessori. I have those on there. And those are really just like 1 minute little snippets of really things that children can do around the house that don't need to, and just how to respectfully show them how to do something. We tend to over talk and, you know, again, control everything. So
that was the best, actually the best thing that I've shared with so many people was SHOW, SHOW.
Oh, right.
You gave us that little tidbit.
Slow hands, omit words. So that when we show a young child something, we slow our movement so that because they're analyzing, they're watching our every movement, and we've got to stop talking because we just over talk everything. They need to be watching our hands, not our mouth. So yeah.
No, I love that. Show slow hands, omit words.
Yes.
So awesome. I've shared it with so many parents, so thank you.
Good.
Yeah, so subscribe to Voila Montessori on YouTube because you've got to check out those videos.
Yes.
And we have all these links on everywhere that we could for this hangout. So
if you have questions, you can send them to us at mamatribenetwork@gmail.com. And if you want to send them to us, and we'll get them to Jeanne-Marie, or you can reach out yourself on her Voila Montessori, Facebook, Google+. She's all over, Rova. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for spending this morning with us. And
well, thank you. It was. I hope it was helpful to parents watching, and you know, it's as you can see, I'm passionate about sharing all this information. So it's been delightful. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. It's much appreciated. And MJ, you have a show this Friday.
Oh yeah.
You do.
Let's promote that.
Yes.
I got Dr. G, of course. I love Dr. G.
Yeah, Dr. G is great.
I know. He's so awesome. So this show was a show that was canceled and rescheduled, so sorry about that. But prebiotics and probiotics. what the hell they are. So we're going to talk about that. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
And then also too, we talked about a little bit for my show. We actually had a raffle recently with a wholesome home, and so Stephanie Paterno, she won the Liquid Aloha sun protection stuff. So we try and do giveaways as much as we can, and they're so fun. So hopefully we'll have another one soon. But yay for Stephanie!
Yay!
Yeah.
And then next week, don't we have Canamom on next week?
I believe we do.
Yeah,
oh
so next week should be a really interesting show.
Yeah.
Talking with Gina Hooch, and I know she's well aware that everybody massacres her name, so I'm sorry. But she's poli-sci mama, and it'll be really interesting to talk to her and some of the cultural responses that she's been getting as an open Canna mama. So
yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah, that should be really interesting. And that's all I got for today in sweaty San Diego.
I know. Let's go enjoy our day. So,
yes.
Jeanne-Marie, what are you doing after the hangout?
Well, after the hangout, I actually am doing a private home consultation later this afternoon. So it's a family that I worked with many years ago with their first child, and she's had a second child and has moved back to San Diego.
Oh, cool.
So I actually go into the home and really look at how a 3-year-old and a newborn can, live well with their parents and like you said, MJ, release all the stress and, make sure that the environment is safe for them to explore freely without, giving mom a heart attack. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Keeping the kids alive. Goal number 1.
So that's an option then for Jeanne-Marie and Voila Montessori. Man, coming to your home, holy moly! I'd pay.
Yeah. Those are my private and I do them for local, but I also work with international clients. So I do also the home consultation through Skype, which has been really fun to do. Just I'm able to see and just guide the parents as much as possible. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yay. Okay, mamas.
Okay.
Enjoy your day.
Yes, we're going to stop the broadcast, but hang on for just a second, Jeanne-Marie. And we will see you guys next week when we have Canamom on, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow night when I talk about prebiotics and probiotics.
Yay, biotics. Okay.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.